Hi, I'm Michael Killen, and I think everyone should think about their town, their city, their state, their country's sustainability, climate action plans. And not every city or state has a climate action plan. I've invited Phil Bobel. He is the Assistant Director of Palo Alto's Public Works to come on this show, and he's going to answer a few questions about the direction of climate plans. And I've invited him because in the position he has, he's obviously a contributor to Palo Alto's climate sustainability plans. Phil, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, let me just ask you, what did you think about the opening? Did I position you and the topic?
Very nicely. I'm glad you mentioned both sustainability and climate action, because we've broadened what we used to call the Climate Action Plan to include many other aspects of sustainability: water, zero waste.
So roughly how long has it been since your city, Palo Alto, been preparing climate plans? Let's just say climate plans. We'll get the sustainability into it in a second.
We kind of got started in about 2005. Our first plan was dated 2007. And now we just, in 2017, we just updated it, added these other features like water to it.
Why did your city make a climate plan in the first place?
Great question. Many of our citizens wanted it, really, when you boil it down. They sort of demanded that Palo Alto be a leader in this area. We as staff were thrilled to comply with that and prepare a plan. But I'd have to say our council, our residents, the whole Palo Alto community was advocates for a plan.
Sacramento is the head of our state. They did not put some pressure on you, encourage you to put a plan together?
Yeah, I'd say that's a secondary reason. Sure, give them a little credit.
Okay, so you're saying your plan has evolved since 2005 or so. And I know you mentioned a little bit of this. Why has it evolved to a different name? Would you go over that again for us?
Well, instead of being just climate action, which implies greenhouse gases and the warming of the planet, important as that is, there's water and trying to come up with enough water, high quality. There's reducing the amount of waste that we produce. There's protecting the environment, the natural environment, and our urban forest. So there's these other aspects that we've added to now, most recently in 2017, and given it this name of a sustainability/climate action plan.
So you've broadened the scope
Exactly.
of it to include other elements of the community or the area. And are you folks in Palo Alto, again, trying to be the leader in all aspects of that plan?
No, I don't think we can claim we're leading the way in all aspects of it. Other people, other cities, communities have also now got sustainability plans.
Okay. What about the state's climate plan? And, you know, I really haven't prepped you to be prepared for this. Has it evolved?
Well, I was just looking today at their proposed update, and they've changed the numbers, and they're assuming more reductions than before, but I didn't find any fundamentally new programs in there in a quick search. So I'd have to say their evolution, they're still focusing on greenhouse gases. It's not a sustainability. You'll find water in a separate plan for the most part. But water does interface with energy, right? It takes energy to get water from point A to point B.
Oh, yes.
So there's a bunch of crossovers there, and they do address that.
What about now the state waste management?
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's not as much focus in there on waste management, even though, again, you can tie it to greenhouse gases, because if you throw stuff in a landfill, then you have to go back and mine new products. Well, that takes energy, right? And that energy produces CO2. So there is a tie to waste management as well, and the goal of zero waste. So they do address it.
Okay, I have a question that might not be a good answer. I'm fascinated with Palo Alto's climate sustainability plan, but I'm also fascinated with California's climate plan. What is the most important quality of California's plan?
Well, to me, the most important kind of assumption is how much of the fleet in the state, how many of these vehicles are going to get converted to electric vehicles? Because that's a key. If we transform, if the whole state, as Palo Alto already has, transforms itself into using only renewable electricity, and then we transform the fleet into electric vehicles, you can argue we've sort of eliminated. So the state has done the same thing. The state, a major part of their plan is the assumption of conversion to electric vehicles.
Okay, to get away from petroleum and to use electricity, and assuming that electricity is generated by clean energy sources. But now you're saying that is probably number one now for the state, is to electrify the cars, and that would have the most significant benefit in reducing greenhouse gases. What about Palo Alto?
It's even more important in Palo Alto. I was just looking at the state numbers, and they're assuming that about 40% of the greenhouse gases comes from the vehicles, the transportation sector. In Palo Alto, it's 60%. So we've done a good enough job in other areas that our percentage is now even greater coming from transportation, where we've still got a ways to go. So 40% at the state level, 60% of emissions in Palo Alto coming from vehicles.
Okay, so car manufacturers probably all know this. California is about the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world, and we have a lot of cars, and our government, including you, are working to force or create a new opportunity for the car manufacturers and the battery manufacturers to give us a whole new generation. We're going to make this transfer to the electric car industry. Probably you folks want to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so our main goal is to have an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030. And a major assumption there is that we are going to get this transformation to electric vehicles.
Could you say that goal again?
80% reduction by 2030, an 80% reduction from our baseline year of 1990.
And what is the state's goal?
The state, by that same year, 2030, has a goal of 40% reduction. So we're being a lot more aggressive than the state.
Yeah, which is typical of you folks. All right, I want to say you've answered all of my questions, and unless you have a question of me or you want to make another statement, I'm going to let you go home to your family.
Well, I would ask you, what do you think the most important thing is that we've got to do to prevent future collapse of our planet?
Well, that's a big question, and I think a lot of it falls into education, finding a way to educate the people about where we are right now, where we are heading, and to get them somehow to buy in to help create new infrastructures that are more sustainable and energy efficient. And I think it would be wise if every state that does not have a sustainability plan, climate sustainable, they ought to take a look at California's plan. And I think every city in the state ought to take a look at what Palo Alto is doing and try to adopt whatever they can from California's plan, from Palo Alto's plan, to help assure a wonderful future for all of us. All right, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hi, I'm Michael Killen.